When you read Malachi, Malachi says, the Lord says, return unto me and I'll return unto you.
Yeah.
And they said, how do we return? And God says, in your tithe, we know what tithe is,
Yeah.
10%. But then he says, in your offerings besides.
Right.
Well, you've got to read it through the eyes of a Jewish Malachi,
Exactly.
a Jewish Jesus. When he says offerings besides,
Right.
he's not talking about we give our tithe and then we give a few bucks for this or a few bucks for
Right.
that. That's a peace offering, and those are powerful.
You betcha.
You bring your tithe and then you
Absolutely.
give extra as God moves you. You
Right.
give something. These are what's called peace offerings. But when he says your offerings, return to me and I'll return to you. How do we return? In your tithe and in your offering.
Yes.
He's talking about the offerings of Passover, Shavuot, Pentecost, Sukkot, Feast of Tabernacles. And he said, when you bring these offerings, when you return. And the reason why God says that in Malachi, Israel has just come out of Babylonian captivity. The reason why the enemy was strong enough to defeat Israel is because Israel was blessed. Israel was living in the blessing of God. And in that, it teaches us that they stopped bringing their first fruit offerings. They stopped bringing their tithes. They stopped keeping Shemitah, which is leaving the land every 7 years and trusting God for a triple blessing. And so now they're back in Israel. They're praying. This is what Malachi is all about. All the prophets, all the sages, all the leaders are praying, God, how do we keep the enemy from defeating us? And God says, return to me. And I'll return unto you.